All right, I think my mic is on. Hey everyone, good to see you. It's awesome to see a full room here. Thank you so much for joining us here at reInvent and coming to our session. Just real quick for introductions, my name is Alyssa Lee. I'm a go-to-market specialist. I'm focused in customer success for AI and ML services. And I'm specialized in AI ops and DevOps, so AI for operations and developer operations. I've been at Amazon for about 3.5 years. Absolutely love the space I work in. And today I'm accompanied by my colleague, Rafael Ramos. He's a principal solutions architect at AWS as well. And also we're honored to have Vandana Chowdhury. She is the director of site reliability engineering at Fidelity Investments. And she's going to be sharing a little bit about their success at Fidelity using AWS services to improve their developer operations. So why are we here? What are we going to talk about today? So this session focuses on how you can streamline your developer operations, leveraging the power of machine learning. So if you're in this room, maybe you're a developer, maybe you're doing some other DevOps best practices already, and you're just looking what you can do to learn more and improve that. Or maybe you're brand new to this space and you don't know much about it and you just want to learn. So regardless of where you are in your journey, we're here to help you adopt what that might look like and understand how you can improve your software delivery lifecycle, leveraging the power of AI and machine learning. So we are in a really exciting time right now. As you guys know, AI is the big hot thing. And as I'm sure you've seen, it's all over this conference. It's the big theme of a lot of different services. And what we're realizing is AI, it's not so much that it's new. I mean, it's been around for a while, but this last year, it's really being embraced by a lot of companies, Fidelity being one of them. So what we're taking a look at is what are the different ways that we're leveraging AI right now, and how can we improve that within our businesses? And what we found is that as we're adopting this more, there's a lot of different things within our businesses that are quite manual that you can actually either automate away using the power of AI, or you can even just use AI and ML as some sort of enhancer or assistant to allow you to work more quickly and more efficiently. So combining the power of services that already exist out there by leveraging AI within that, you can improve that to allow you to work more quickly and more securely. So for today, we are going to cover what does a typical software delivery lifecycle look like? And from there, we are going to dive into each of those key stages to see what are the type of opportunities that you have to maybe remove something manual or an area of improvement that we've seen and leverage that with the power of AI and ML. We're going to talk about what services that we offer through AWS that can achieve that goal. So as we talk to writing code, we'll talk to a service called Amazon CodeWhisperer. Code quality, we'll talk about Amazon CodeGuru security. Application monitoring, Amazon DOP207. And during that, we're also going to have a demo for Amazon CodeWhisperer. And I'll also hand it off to Vandana, who's going to speak to how they've been leveraging these services to improve developer operations. So what does a typical software delivery lifecycle look like? Now, you write the code, you build and test it, you deploy it, and from there you have some sort of observability solution to monitor it and make sure it keeps running smoothly. Now, when you look at those stages, there's a lot of pieces that are either manual or redundant, and lots of opportunities for you to move more quickly if you were to see about where you can actually insert AI and ML. So for example, writing code. Maybe if it's, say you typically develop in Python and you have to now write something in Java. Well, now you're looking up different resources to see best practices, what the coding resources are. Maybe your company has certain protocols you need to follow while you're coding. You have to look at what those are. And all these efforts to look up and try to understand what are the best practices and what you should be using can be extremely manual. Building and testing code. This is an area where you might be doing some sort of security reviews of the code to make sure there's no security vulnerabilities, the code is up to quality. And when you're running all these, one, you might not know what to quite look for. And two, it's, again, a process that could be very manual in terms of having manpower behind that to actually look at the code. Then, of course, there's the human error piece, too, if you happen to miss something. And then, of course, observability. This is a piece where if you're working with your support teams, that could be a process, one that's manual to identify what an issue is, what are the actions to remediate it, and then, of course, actually implementing the fix. So now we're going to dive into each of the stages. I'm going to hand it off to Raphael, who is going to talk about writing code in Amazon CodeWhisperer.
Cool. Yeah, thanks, Alyssa, for the intro. Hello, everyone. My name is Rafael Ramos. I'm a principal solutions architect on the developer acceleration team. So from those opportunities, those improvement opportunities that Alyssa just alluded to here, let's start from the beginning, which is when we are writing the code of our applications. A common challenge that we face as developers would be to deal with multiple programming languages to build our applications, right? Like back in the days before I joined AWS, there was this project that I worked on as a developer, and we had the mandate to refactor one of our main applications and adopt a microservices-based architecture. We wanted to use the right tool for the right job for that. Then we decided to build specific microservices using specific programming languages, depending on the situation there. So some of those microservices we built in Python, some others we decided to use Node.js in JavaScript. But for most of my career, I was a Java developer, and on that point in time, I had to deal with those different programming languages that I was not very familiar with. A common situation that I would face would be to go online and search for, hey, what is the Pythonic way to achieve a certain task? I think some of you have been there and done that. Like, for example, this snippet that you see on the screen, what's the Pythonic way to apply a function to all the items in a list? I knew how to do that in Java, but I didn't know what was the Pythonic way. On top of those programming languages, we, of course, have to deal with the frameworks and libraries that are part of that specific ecosystem. It could be that I'm not very knowledgeable, or you are not very knowledgeable with some specific framework that you've got over there. But it's also common that sometimes we struggle to remember a certain feature of a familiar framework that you're using. And of course, there is also the number of cloud services and third-party APIs that you have to integrate to build your applications. Like maybe you are using Amazon DynamoDB to store and retrieve data, or maybe you are streaming data using Amazon Kinesis. If we go back to the SPACE framework that defines how to measure the developer productivity, one of the pillars is actually about efficiency. And this pillar basically describes the ability that you, as a developer, the ability to complete a specific task that you have over there with minimal interruptions. So in other words, this is related to getting to the flow, to be focused perhaps in your IDE and focus on your business outcomes, on delivering business impact for your organization. Writing repetitive tasks or searching online for code snippets all the time is something that can take you out of your flow, and those are just some examples of time-consuming activities that can impact your productivity. And that's where Amazon CodeWhisperer comes into play, right? So CodeWhisperer is a generative AI service that aims to improve your development productivity. So a friend of mine likes to call, instead of saying developer productivity, he likes to say that CodeWhisperer allows you to have more time to enhance your creativity, because CodeWhisperer will take care of the grunt work for you, where you focus on the things that really matter to your business, or maybe the things that you find fun at work, right? The idea here is to stay in the flow and perhaps almost never leave your IDE, because you're focusing on your task with CodeWhisperer supporting you. CodeWhisperer is powered by a large language model that we trained on billions of lines of code, both from Amazon, but also from open source projects with permissive licenses. The service generates code as similar to how you'd write on your own. It's not like a simple copy-paste from the web. And the benefit is that you get ready-to-use code that is already customized for you based on your context, and it also matches your style, like the naming conventions you are using, for example. How it works? You basically install the AWS toolkit in your IDE of choice, and then you sign up for CodeWhisperer. There are two ways to sign up. The first one is to use what we call AWS Builder ID, and then you can use CodeWhisperer completely for free. You don't even need an AWS account for that. And the second one is to use the IAM Identity Center, which is for the professional paid version of CodeWhisperer. So when you start then writing your code there on your IDE, CodeWhisperer is then the toolkit that you have locally in your IDE will send to the back end some contextual information. And that could be the prompt that you're writing, but also maybe the code that you're writing over there. It's also going to send some lines of codes above and below the cursor, and things like the imports, some of the open tabs you have there, and so on. And then as you type, in real time, CodeWhisperer will send back to you the one or more code suggestions, like entire functions, entire logical blocks of code. And it can also send, if you're documenting, let's say you're using Python or Java, you're using docstring or Javadoc, CodeWhisperer will send this documentation for you as well. In terms of programming languages, we already fully support Java, JavaScript, Python, TypeScript, Rust, PHP, Kotlin, SQL, C#, and Go. And for those, CodeWhisperer provides full functions and logical blocks of code. And just yesterday, we also announced support for infrastructure as code, including CloudFormation, CDK, and Terraform. We also do support Ruby, C, C++, and shell scripting and Scala, but for those, CodeWhisperer will suggest you one line at a time. As far as IDEs, those are the ones we fully support already. So that includes the VS Code, also the JetBrains family, AWS Cloud9. You can use CodeWhisperer directly from the AWS Lambda console as well. And if you're a data scientist, you can also use from Amazon SageMaker Studio or AWS Glue Studio. And yesterday, we also announced in preview support for Visual Studio. Besides code recommendations, right, the CodeWhisperer provides you with two additional features. One of them is called Reference Tracker. And what it does is when CodeWhisperer generates a code recommendation that is similar to training data that came from open source projects, CodeWhisperer will inform you about that. Hey, this piece of code is similar to code that we use from open source repo. And you also have like a link to that specific repo and the license that you have there. And then you can make informed decisions. Hey, I'm not comfortable using open source project or this specific maintainer of the project or this specific license. The other feature we have there is called Security Scan. So what it does, as the name suggests, is to scan your code locally in your IDE, looking for possible vulnerabilities. So the idea, again, is to stay focused, to stay in your IDE, and solve those issues as early as possible in the software development lifecycle, even before you push this code to your Git repositories. And just yesterday, we also announced the possibility of, besides the vulnerability, besides informing you about this vulnerability, we also give you a code snippet on how to fix that specific issue that you have over there. This security scanning is powered by CodeGuru Security, which is another service that Alyssa will cover in a bit. The other capability that we announced just recently on CodeWhisperer in preview is the possibility to customize CodeWhisperer with your own proprietary code repositories. So this then will enhance CodeWhisperer to give you even better recommendations because it's going to be aware of your own internal libraries, the APIs you use over there in your organization, the best practices you are using, the architecture patterns, and so on. Each of those customizations are separated from the foundational model that underlies CodeWhisperer so that it's accessible only for you. You train using your code, and only you and the developers you choose within your organization can access that. And this is how CodeWhisperer would look like in your software development lifecycle in your pipeline when you are using that as your productivity tool for the IDE and the command line. Let me now switch to demo. Let me see how I can operate this one. Yeah, I think it's this. So I'm here on my IDE, right? I'm using VS Code here. There is this file that I want to do. As you can see, the file is empty. And what I'm going to use to interact with CodeWhisperer is a prompt. So I'm going to write a comment describing what I want to do, and then I'll get the code recommendation from CodeWhisperer. So the first thing I will do is a very simple task, upload a file to S3 bucket. When I hit enter, CodeWhisperer processes and sends this prompt to the backend, and I get as a response this, let me increase the font size. I get as a response the function name, right, the signature. I hit tab to accept and enter again, then CodeWhisperer will give me the implementation for that. It's also informing me that, hey, if you accept this, I'm gonna add 2 imports here. I hit tab to accept. I can go ahead also and fix my import here, the client error here, and here I go. So I started with a fresh file, an empty file. So CodeWhisperer doesn't have much context. It's gonna rely entirely in the prompt that you write over there. The other way to use that is probably more fluid, more related to how you'd write your own code. So instead of writing a prompt, I'll just feel like as I would normally write my code, right? I'll interact with CodeWhisperer like that. I'll say, I want to implement this method called isValidBarcode. So here, I'm editing a class that is a shopping list, so I have some methods already implemented with the doc strings. I have the methods to add item, add multiple items, and each item has a barcode and so on. So CodeWhisperer, based on the context that I have here, it created to me this specific method. So I don't want the self. I want to use just like this as static, so I have my barcode here. CodeWhisperer then followed my style. I was adding doc strings on my methods. So CodeWhisperer thought that, hey, probably all the methods should have doc string as well. Then it added some documentation here for me that I can go ahead and enhance, of course. So the CodeWhisperer, to validate the barcode, it's using regex, right? So it's added as pattern this thing here, 0 to 9, A to Z, capital 8 character. How does it know that a barcode should look like that? It's because of the context. There is this method on add item that I'm defining that a barcode is an 8-long character that contains only numbers and uppercase letters. So the existing code gave a hint to CodeWhisperer that this is how a barcode should look like, and then it automatically generated the code like this, the validate function like this. Another common thing that you would face, another type of grunt work, is doing unit tests. So I have my class here to test this specific shopping list. And I can go ahead and create a unit test for that method that I just created. Test actually is valid barcode. So it suggested me something, but I don't quite like this one. I want to validate multiple barcodes at once. So I'm gonna create a variable. It's already suggesting me something, but I don't want just one. I want to use multiple examples, so I'm declaring the variable in plural. So it's suggesting me some test data. I hit tab and I accept that. So based on the shopping list tab that is here, CodeWhisperer knows that the barcode would look like this, and it's creating test data for you automatically. So you don't have to copy paste those things and tweak it. You're again avoiding some grunt work. The other thing I want to do is the invalid barcode. So CodeWhisperer knows how the invalid barcodes look like. It generated to meet this one. At this point, I'm just hitting enter and tab. So valid barcodes, yeah, let me create the asserts. So just like this. And I have to add the self here. And there we go. So I have all my unit tests implemented like that with the test data already. Another Another demo that I would like to show you of CodeWhisperer's capabilities when interacting with AWS SDK, right? So I have here a repository. It's basically a data transfer, a DAO, right? A data access object. So it's for my application, which is an e-wallet. So each wallet contains multiple financial transactions here on this repository, and this one is interacting with DynamoDB. I have already some methods implemented, like the find. I also have the list transactions by wallet here, but I don't have the method save, right? So let's go ahead and implement that. CodeWhisperer already guesses, say, there is no save method here. Maybe you should implement this one. I'll hit tab to accept. I didn't have to type anything. And it's following, again, my style. So it's kind of adding the typing here. So it declared the method signature for save. And then it's generating some recommendation. This is not exactly what I want to do. So CodeWhisperer generates multiple recommendations. I'm typing the left and right arrows to go through the different recommendations it's giving me. This one looks good. I'll hit tab to accept. Again, it added the doc string to me. It's declaring like the IDs as a random ID, the created ads, the status when I create the transaction, and taking care of interacting with the DynamoDB client by calling the put item here. And in the item, I'm storing all the attributes of a specific transaction directly on the DynamoDB and then returning the transaction. Cool. So let me now hand over back to Alisa. How do I do that? HTML2.
Perfect.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, Alisa.
Thanks, Rafa. All right, so Raphael just showed you guys how you can leverage the power of generative AI to assist you as you're coding. So you can move more quickly, more efficiently, and you also have the confidence that you're doing it with the right recommendations. So how do you move quickly now, knowing that it's actually the right quality, knowing that it's secure? So that brings us to the next stage. So building and testing code. So this is generally where your teams are going to be running some sort of security reviews of that code to look for any sort of anomalies, code quality areas they want to look for, make sure it complies with maybe something that's org specific, something just for your company. And what we're seeing is more and more companies are doing this idea of shifting left. So meaning you're scanning and you're reviewing code earlier in the process to make sure you catch issues earlier. That way it gives you more time to fix it and you can catch it earlier in production. And you're not doing all these quick fixes and bug fixes right before deployment, which could potentially delay your deployment. So at AWS, we are trying to focus on this idea of starting left, meaning as the developer, so as you're coding, you are equipped with the tools and services that you need to be able to run your own security scans, have built-in features that allow you to do those checks on your own. So that way, by the time it gets to an actual security review or that stage, it's going to be much quicker. So the areas that we're looking to solve, so one, how do you know what to look for? Like, how do you even know what a bug would be? It'd be, as a developer, you're not AppSec, you don't know what to look for. So it's going to be easy for maybe to look over, well, I didn't realize that was an anomaly, or I didn't realize that was important to our org, that it has to be a certain way to be compliant. Another issue that we see is this idea of like false positives. So sometimes when you have teams that are doing reviews like AppSec, maybe they're looking at incomplete code or maybe a different version of the code. So they flag something as some sort of security vulnerability when the developers aren't quite done yet or they weren't ready or something like that. So we see different cases of false positives. So in order to help solve both of those, we launched the service called Amazon CodeGuru Security. That was actually launched in Reinforce. I don't know if you guys were there, but I was there this year. That was in June. But yeah, that was a fun event too. But for CodeGuru Security, it leverages the power of ML and into looking at security vulnerabilities in your code. So by looking at these earlier in the process of development, what it allows you to do is, as a developer, to catch that very early. So Raphael touched on it in terms of that security scanning feature. That's powered by Amazon CodeGuru Security. And what that allows you to do is bubble up those issues earlier to the top so you can move more quickly. And it's also based on AWS best practices and also other top vulnerabilities that we're aware of to make sure that we are catching the most critical issues. So in terms of what it covers, the languages that it covers are Java, Python, and JavaScript, with additional languages as well. And what we looked at is the OWASP top 20, or top 10, and also the CWE top 25. So what those are reports that bubble up what the top security vulnerabilities are and across the industry. So generally those are released on a regular basis and they're always being updated. We also look at AWS-specific vulnerabilities. So we have our own security team that is constantly developing new security detectors. So as we are identifying more of that, we're working that into the development of CodeGuru security. And that way, each time you scan, it's using those new security detectors we developed. So if you just search for CodeGuru security detector library, you'll be able to see what the latest are that are available. So a big idea that we were trying to come to is this idea of meeting you where you are. So as developers, this idea of meeting you in your IDE. So it integrates directly into CodeWhisperer, is what Rafa showed, and also integrating directly into CI/CD pipelines. So say, for example, in this, you push code to a repository, so in this case, GitHub. GitHub Actions will pick that up. It gets uploaded to an S3 bucket, and from there, it triggers a scan. So as you can see here, the feedback loop goes back to the developer. So again, it goes back in the hands of the developer to make sure that as they're working through their development, that they can do the continuous scanning and ensure that their code is up to quality and also secure. So our goal was to merge these two stages together. So as you can see, by leveraging the power of CodeGuru security and having it integrated within your IDE, that allows the developer that as they're writing and reviewing their code, they can also review it and build and test it. So this is going to be built-in code reviews with actionable recommendations. So the next stage. So you built your app, you ran your security reviews, it's now deployed. So now it's deployed, now what? So this brings us to application monitoring. So after you launch something, you want to make sure that the application continues to run smoothly. So this is the next stage of observability. And the key challenges that we always look at in this stage that we've seen is we're trying to make sure that with everything that's going on in the market, so what we found is that companies are running into these main challenges when they want to look at keeping their applications running smoothly. One is there's so much data, there's so many different applications, there's so many different sources of where that could have come from and what it can impact, that there's this information overload. And it leads to this idea called alarm fatigue, where you're getting all these notifications, you're getting different areas that are going off that you don't know, what do I focus on? Like, what's the key issue here? And what's the root of it? So that goes back to data correlation, where to know what's impacting what, and also what you need to fix for the future to prevent any other issues with any other resources. Then, of course, there's the piece of making sure that all your monitoring services are up to date. So you want to make sure that that's also keeping up with the market, so you are able to continuously look for the right types of issues that could occur for your application. So all these challenges can be addressed with improving your observability solution. So what's observability? I like to use the analogy of like if you think of a car, like saying like, well, what's underneath the hood? So you want to be able to see how is everything running and what does it look like on the inside. So by our definition, it allows you to understand what is the state of your system and what type of remediable actions can you take if something were to go wrong. And that's both from a proactive sense to make sure you prevent issues, and also a reactive sense where if something happens, you know what to do in order to take corrective action, and also quickly and efficiently. And so when we talk to customers, we like to kind of first assess where they are. At AWS, we defined these 4 different levels of observability. So first level being you might have some really basic monitoring solutions, so you have a little bit of visibility of what's going on in your system. The next level being maybe you have something a little reactive, so if something goes wrong, it'll tell you what's going on and you know where to go look for it to fix it. When you start getting to level 3, you're going to have more predictive type of solutions, so maybe something that says, hey, this happened, maybe here's a handful of recommendations of how to fix it. And level 4, we're getting more into things that are more proactive. So you want to be able to say, like, hey, this could be an issue down the line. Here's a solution that you can put in to help remediate it. It's also a state that we like to call self-healing state, where as you are continuing to monitor your systems, it's continuously evolving. So it's looking at what's happened, it's kind of predicting what could be next. And you have the tools that you need to quickly resolve issues, both for proactive type of issues and also reactive type. So this brings us to a solution we have called Amazon DevOps Guru. So this is a machine learning powered service that allows you to monitor your different resources and detect any sort of anomalies with actionable insights. So what this does is it reduces downtime and it improves application availability, allowing you to keep your application running smoothly. Amazon DevOps Guru is very easy to use. It just takes a few minutes to set up. You can either turn it on for an entire account, or you can select specific resources by tags or stacks. And once you turn it on, it just automatically starts detecting issues. With that, it's going to be paired with some sort of recommendation. Maybe it's usually a handful of something that went wrong. And it's also very scalable in the sense of if you add more resources to that account, maybe to that stack or tag, it's just going to pick it up and start monitoring. These are some examples of what the machine learning is going to pick up. So if you are using DevOps Guru, machine learning is a piece that allows you to detect high severity incidents. So what it's going to do is it's going to bubble up the most critical issues to the top. And that's going to be based on AWS best practices. So what we like to look at is we have different pieces like the well-architected review and other guidelines and pillars that we follow to deem what would be an actual critical issue versus what is one that's maybe less severe. What it's also going to do is it's going to use machine learning to correlate events and metrics to say, well, this happened over here, this also happened, maybe they're related, and it's going to give you links to the different resources, as well as provide you with any contextual data that might allow you to better understand what happened. So by doing that, it's going to allow you to more quickly identify any sort of probable cause, and also just help your support team move more quickly, because it's going to put it in your hands with what actions to take, as well as with the recommendations to move forward. So this is a standard workload in AWS. We want to just talk about where DevOps Guru will fit in this to help you understand where AIOps sits in it too. So you have some sort of information going into your monitoring resource, whether that's applications, so maybe an EC2 application, serverless application, a database, and it's going to go into some sort of observability tool. Maybe it's CloudWatch, CloudTrail, RDS Performance Insights. From there, it goes to some sort of dashboard, and it's going to then go to your operations team, maybe via SNS, Slack, PagerDuty, some sort of way to bubble up this issue happened for your team to take action. Now, when you introduce AI and machine learning, that layer is going to sit on top of those observability tools. So Amazon CloudWatch anomaly detection, that leverages the power of AI by automatically adjusting thresholds you've already set. So the difference between CloudWatch and DevOps207 is that you're still setting up manual alarms for CloudWatch of what you want to look for, versus Amazon DevOps207 is going to be auto-creating alarms based on best practices, but they're going to be having similar behavior. There's also AWS X-Ray Insights, which does application tracing, and that's also going to be ML-powered types of insights to allow you to see what might be going under the hood in your system. So DevOps207, this is a screenshot of what the dashboard looks like. As I described before, it's going to be bubbling up those top critical issues to at the very top of your dashboard. And it's going to tell you what it's been scanning, what it's picked up. And you can filter that based on maybe particular stacks, maybe particular resources and tags. And you can also see different insights with this. And as I mentioned before, it's going to be both reactive and proactive insights. And it's going to show you what's been picked up by DevOps207. It's also going to be including any sort of ranking of if it's severe to you. So that's the different colors you're seeing here, where it'll say if it's a highly severe issue versus medium or low. Again, all based on best practices. And with that, it's going to be including actionable recommendations. So this is going to allow you to quickly improve the state of your system. And it's going to usually provide you with a few of them. That way you can narrow down what exactly might have happened and allow you to move forward. So at this stage, we've gotten through down to the observed level. And all of these are meant to be improving that software delivery lifecycle, allowing you to move more quickly and more efficiently. And it gives you the power to use AI and machine learning to remove any sort of manual pieces of that and making space for your team to focus on the actual issues at hand and more, like we like to say, think big. So like focus more on your actual business problems you want to focus on. So at this stage, I'm going to hand it over to Vandana, who is going to talk about how Fidelity Investments has been leveraging DevOps207.
Okay, little context setting here. We all work very hard to serve the customers, and that to our best of our ability to make sure they're all working fine, the applications are working fine. But at times when we get these production issues, the reliability that we promised to our customers is under radar. Then is there any way that I can proactively find these production issues way before my customers gets impacted? If my application is impacted, can I quickly apply a fix and bounce back my application back in the system? These are some of the requirements. And as an SRE, I would jump to have anything that feasibility that gives me to resolve these issues proactively and also even reactively, quickly to solve these issues. With that note, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Vandana, leading site reliability engineering practice within Fidelity Investments, having 18 years of specialized experience in building reliability by applying best practices of resiliency, chaos engineering, observability, and automation. I'm glad that today I'm talking about DevOps207, and we have a full house here, and also my colleagues, my own guru is here, Keith Wilzard. So excited to talk about it, why we choose the DevOps207 service. As I mentioned, that this service gives us that feasibility to capture these issues proactively. Now, before we jump on the service, let's understand what kind of ecosystem we have here at Fidelity Investments. And as you can see, ours is a huge, there are multiple developers, around 17,000 developers who are working to get these applications on the cloud. Our cloud journey started way back in 2016, and so far we have around 6,000 applications already in the cloud, and we are still moving from the on-prem to cloud journey. Our journey still continue on that path. And ours is like we have individual accounts where these applications reside, and these accounts are multi-region accounts. And then we have each individual teams which may belong to a different business unit and which are serving to the different customers of Fidelity Investments. And then these teams, these individual teams maintain their own health of their individual account. And the scale that we see here is huge right now. So in this huge scale of applications or the accounts and the complexity that is there, our main aim is to make sure that we sustain our reliability. The availability should be there. Now, if we look at what is our current focus, as I mentioned that our focus is that zero disruption to our customers. We don't want any disruption to our customers. And the way to achieve this is our mindset shift of minimum viable product to a minimum reliable product. I don't want to just create a product which is working fine. I want to make sure that I create a reliable product. If something goes in the production, I know my application can bounce back. I know what are the different failure modes my application get it, and I'm very much aware of it. I can catch those issues and proactively solve those. And to approach of this AI ops, which is based on the data and automation, is that when I know that what is my end-to-end understanding of the system, do I know that what are the different dependencies I have? Do I know that what is my blast radius if something goes wrong? What are the systems, applications that get impacted, and so that I can fix them in no time? Also, what is my ITSM process? If any change goes in the production and it is not working fine, can I know the backup plan works quickly fine and works every time best way? The other very important aspect here is the observability. I want to understand that, do I understand everything about the application, what's going on in the application in terms of the health and in terms of the performance of the application to serve my customers? Are my customers getting the right kind of a response time for their application? There are multiple ways of getting this observability completed. You have your anomaly monitors, you have your static monitors, you have synthetic monitors, and then you have these proactive and reactive insights that you get from the services like DevOps207. And that's why we thought using this service. And also, when we use our resiliency, which is with the chaos engineering and the performance engineering, it helps us to get that complete package of you have your observability in place, and then you have your resiliency testing in place so that you are able to perform these failure modes in the non-prod environment and make sure that your production is not getting impacted. Now, the benefits that we talked about. One is that since it gives me a completely data-driven approach, it's easy for me to take those decisions and then make sure that I'm able to serve the customers and able to take those decisions in terms of building the resiliency. As we mentioned in the previous slide that we have each individual teams responsible for their own account health and all. So that's why it helps me and my development team as well as my support operation teams in terms of mitigating the issues quickly. And the other benefit is that I don't need to manually set up any kind of monitors. Within 2 hours of integrating the service within my account, I'm able to generate the insights, and that helps me to make sure that I'm not spending time, skills, energy in making sure that I teach for somebody how to create a monitor and then create that monitor for my application and all. The service with the ML-based service gives me that feasibility to do all of this automatically, and then get me the insights of the anomaly which has happened to my system and applications. Now, in terms of the integration model that we learned even in the slides that AWS team was sharing about, there are multiple ways to get this service integrated. But the way that works best for our organization is when we use the tags. When we use the tags, we are able to make sure that we know that what resources we are going to enable the DevOps for and use that insights for that particular application. So that works best for us, but it depends on everyone's organization. If you have an entire account, you can do it, but ours is the tags is the works best for us. Now it generates these insights for us where our operational team, our dev teams can understand what's going on in our system and work on the mitigation path that is also shown, like if there's an issue in the system, how can I resolve that issue as well, because the service gives me that visibility. But I don't want to just look at that issue and work on that part. I want to make sure that that issue gets captured in my existing workflow. Since at our organization, we use ServiceNow to track our issues and service tickets and all. So we have created a mechanism of the automation where the DevOps insights that gets created are flown from SNS to ServiceNow. That way, any issue that gets captured as insight also flows into my existing workflow, and then I can track that and make sure that the issue is resolved and what was the mitigation that was done to resolve that issue and how much time it takes to resolve the issue as well. Now, let's remember the initial slide that I was talking about, that it is a very massive scale that we have here at our organization. We are good at our individual accounts. We capture the issues at our individual accounts. We work on the resolving those issues and all. But especially as an SRE organization or as SRE group, I would be interested to understand that what kind of insights are generated in all of these accounts in my organization, even though I'm talking about, say, thousands of accounts are there. What kind of services are getting more errors? What kind of errors I'm getting it? I want to know all of that. And why I want to know all of that is because I want to consolidate all of that information to understand, is there any pattern of the issues that I see across all the accounts of the issue of my organization? Do I see that there's a need for applying a best practice to resolve these common issues? Or if there's any kind of auto-healing I need to create to resolve these very often common issues that I see in my different accounts. So DevOps Guru gives me a feasibility called multi-account view, which is a elevated account access where I can see all of the insights across different accounts in one dashboard, the QuickSight dashboard that it creates. Also, it creates a visibility, transparency among different accounts, that what kind of services other accounts have, what kind of issues I'm getting it, and that way I can apply these best practices at a SRE level to make sure that my applications are following these best practices as well. So this multi-account view is definitely going to help, especially the central or the horizontal teams like SRE teams when it comes to how to resolve not just one account problem, but in general all the account problems. Now, here I have just captured some of the examples here, how this service was able to help especially our organization. The first one, very important for all of us. I want to make sure that my money is saved. The FinOps side benefit, what benefit I'm getting it. So the kind of insight that service captures, especially for when your utilization is, your underutilized resources are there and which is costing you money, and it can give you a signal saying that your DynamoDB resources are underutilized, and that way I can make sure that my utilization is not too much and my consumption is very less, and I can work on that part and make sure I can save on my money part of it. So that's a kind of insight which really helps us. The other one is the very important one, which is a proactive insight, where any kind of a resource exhaustion is happening. I'm getting the insights like your CPU consumption is at this scale, you are standing at here at this percentage, and you may run out of the CPU in next 36 hours or in next 20 hours. That way, I'm trying to resolve those issues way back, it becomes the actual issues. So these proactive insights are really helping me to work on my resource exhaustion issues. So this is one of the example on that part. The other one is sometimes in the best practices. For example, if I don't have any Lambda function is not having enough subnets, my multi-account zone redundancy is not there. So it will capture those insights and give me as an insight, and that way I can work on this particular best practices to resolve that. The other one is in the DynamoDB, my data recovery is not enabled, and I can work on that to make sure that I'm following these best practices. So these are some of the examples we have called out here, which talks about that how this service helps me in terms of FinOps, in terms of the resource consumption, and in terms of some of the best practices that I need to apply, along with some of the common errors that we see in different services that within the AWS platform. Now, I think I spoke about why we use service, what is the need of this service. The key takeaway from us to all of you, and we want to share with all of you, is that these proactive insights are definitely going to be very, very helpful. Reactive is fine, but getting a proactive insights means that you are avoiding a potential impact to your customers. So definitely, these proactive insights are very, very helpful for us. Second is this multi-account view, which I personally feel is a very good view of us to give a consolidation of the information across different accounts, what kind of resources, what kind of errors, what kind of insights it is generating. And frequency of these errors also is a very important element. You want to see that you're getting this error every 3 hours, every 15 minutes. And that means this is really a big thing for you to fix it. So this multi-account view is definitely a good takeaway from this service. The third one is that when it gives us a mitigation path to resolve an issue, that means I'm having a consistency in terms of how I will use that signal to resolve that issue. So that is definitely be a good one for us. And it is not just we have the details from the service. We continuously work with the AWS team. We share our feedback with them. We talk with them that this my requirement in my organization is like this. Can you give me a little more details on this part? Like for example, I need the app ID, application ID associated with the insight, so that I know that if I'm getting an insight, if suppose I have an account where I have multiple applications residing on that part, and I want to discriminate between different applications which are on that account, so we put that request to AWS team saying that, can you give me a dashboard details in this format where I can easily find what are the different applications, and they kind of work on that part. So that's how we are working with AWS team in terms of enhancing our experience as well as the service as well. Yeah, I think that's all from my side. For the next, which is like conclusion, I'm going to call Arisa here. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Vandana. So yeah, that was a very unique, special insight to how one of our customers, Fidelity, is leveraging DevOps to be successful within their business. So at this stage, we've gone through the software delivery lifecycle. We've talked about each of the different services that can help you. And at this point, we hope you have a pretty familiar idea of what each one can do. And maybe you're thinking about how can you apply it to your business? What maybe is a manual piece that you could help leverage ML with to help you work quicker through that life cycle. So at AWS, we're working on achieving this next generation builder experience on AWS. So what we want to do is we want to make it a better experience for the developers and also your team as you work through that life cycle. So by providing you with context-based recommendations, documentation, code scanning, reducing false positives, anomaly detections, all these things that are help with the leveraging the power of machine learning. This is an area that we are looking to make sure that you are having a better experience and also moving more quickly, allowing you to focus on the bigger business problems at hand. So if you're curious to try any of these services, you can go ahead and take a picture of this slide. So each of these services either have a free tier or they have a free trial. And if you don't get a chance to take a picture, that's fine. You could just look up each of the services and it's just on the Getting Started page. Very easy to get started with each of them. But if you have any questions, you can always reach out to one of us to help you get started. Oh, I should leave that up for another second for you. But before we wrap up, I'll just say that if you have any questions and you want to reach out to our teams, we're more than happy to do a deep dive with you. We run these things called POCs, or proofs of concepts, with your team. So we're happy to go through each of these services and help you identify what are those different pieces. What are those pieces that we can help you improve in your business? And meanwhile, we're leveraging these free tiers as we do that. That way, it's no cost to your teams, and it's also great for our teams too, because we can get raw feedback from you in terms of what you like about the service, what you don't. We always love hearing that. Me sitting in customer success, it's very important. And it's a great experience and win-win for both sides. But with that, I'm going to wrap it up. This is some of our contact information if you want to connect with us. It's like our LinkedIn's and Rafa's Twitter if you want to connect. And don't forget to fill out the survey. We'd love to hear your feedback on this session.